She stood in the rain, soaked to the bone, unable to move, unable to breathe. Across the street, under the warm glow of a yellow porch light, her husband was kissing another woman goodnight. But that wasn't what broke her. What broke her was the little boy who came running out after him, screaming, "Daddy, don't go!" The child threw his tiny arms around Chidi's leg and held on like his whole world depended on it. Dara pressed her hand over her mouth. Her knees nearly gave way, because that child was not hers. But to understand how she got to that street corner, in the rain, watching her marriage collapse in real time, we have to go back. 3 months before that night, Dara thought she was one of the lucky ones. She lived in a beautiful apartment in Lagos with her husband Chidi. He was handsome, successful, generous, the kind of man who always knew exactly the right thing to say. When her friends envied her marriage, she smiled proudly. And why wouldn't she? On paper, Chidi Okafor was the perfect husband. But every Friday evening, he packed a suitcase. "Business trip," he would say, buttoning his shirt without looking up. Every weekend. Every single weekend. At first, Dara told herself it was nothing. Successful men travel. That's just how it is. But then, the small things started screaming louder than words ever could. A toy car. Small, red plastic, tucked under the passenger seat of his car. A grocery receipt. Baby milk. Cereal. Pampers. And then, the note. A folded piece of paper inside his jacket pocket. A woman's handwriting. Neat. Careful. Intimate. Just 2 words. Drive safe. Dara stood in that room and stared at those 2 words for 10 full minutes. She never wrote like that. That night, she waited until they were calm, and she asked him carefully, "Chidi, who wrote this?" He barely looked up from his phone. "A client secretary." He said it the way you explain something obvious to a child. Then he smiled, that big, warm, confident smile she had fallen in love with, and kissed her forehead. "You think too much, baby." And Dara smiled back. She smiled back. But deep inside her chest, something cold had woken up. Something quiet. Something that would not go back to sleep. One night, past midnight, Dara reached across the bed and felt cold sheets. She got up, walked quietly down the dark hallway. And there he was, Chidi, standing by the living room window, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, soft, the kind of soft that isn't meant for business calls. "Yes, I miss you too." Dara stopped breathing. She pressed herself against the wall and listened. "Tell my son, Daddy is coming tomorrow." The room tilted. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard she thought he would hear it. His son. His son. The next morning, Chidi was cheerful. He whistled while he dressed. He ate breakfast. He read the news. He kissed her cheek on his way out and said, "Abuja meetings all weekend. Don't wait up." Dara smiled and nodded. Then she held his tie with both hands and straightened it slowly, smoothed it down against his chest. "Safe trip," she whispered. The moment his car turned the corner, she picked up her phone and called her best friend, Tayo. "We follow him today." Traffic was heavy. Rain tapped against the windshield. Tayo drove 2 cars behind Chidi's, close enough to follow, far enough not to be seen. They expected Airport Road. They expected a hotel, a guest house, something that matched the story. Instead, Chidi turned into a quiet neighborhood on the other side of the same city. Narrow streets, small houses, normal life. He stopped in front of a yellow apartment building, stepped out, not tired, not stressed, but happy, and opened the back seat. groceries, toys, and a birthday cake. Before he even reached the door, it burst open. "Daddy!" A little boy flew out and jumped straight into his arms. Dara covered her mouth with both hands. Then she appeared, a beautiful woman in a red dress, stepping out onto the porch with a soft smile on her face. She reached up and touched Chidi's face, gently, the way you only touch someone you deeply, truly love. And then she kissed him, long enough to erase every excuse, every lie, every business trip. Dara's tears came hot and fast. Beside her, Tayo gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. "Say the word," Tayo said quietly. Dara stared at the little family on that porch, the child, the happy man, the woman in the red dress. Her voice was ice. "Not today." For 2 full days, Dara said nothing. She cooked his meals. She asked about his fake meetings. She laughed at his jokes. She played the role of a woman who suspected nothing. And every time Chidi looked her in the eye and lied with a smile, he looked proud of himself. That smile hurt more than the betrayal itself. Sunday night, he came home with flowers. "For my patient wife," he said. She accepted them. She kissed his cheek. She waited until he fell asleep. Then she searched his pockets. Inside, a folded receipt. School fees. Paid for. Kene Chidi Okafo. Mother, Amaka Okafo. Father, signature, Chidi Okafo. Dara sat on the bathroom floor and stared at that paper until the sun came up. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just cheating. This was a hidden home, a hidden child, a hidden life, running parallel to hers for years, while she went to hospitals, while she took fertility tests, while she cried herself to sleep, wondering why God hadn't given her a child yet. Chidi was tucking another child into bed on the other side of the city. He let her blame herself. He watched her break, and he said nothing. Dara cried silently in the dark so he wouldn't hear her. And then she wiped her tears, and she became dangerous. Tayo found Chidi's friend Ayodeji drinking after work that week. 1 bottle became 2. 2 became 3. And guilt, mixed with alcohol, has a way of loosening mouths. "Yes, Chidi has been with Amaka for years," he told us. Dara couldn't give him children. Tayo nearly put her fist through the table. But when she reported back to Dara, something in Dara's eyes didn't explode. It went still, because she remembered. Every hospital visit, every injection, every night she prayed and apologized to God for something she didn't even know she'd done wrong. And all along, Chidi already had a son. He didn't just lie to her, he made her feel broken. That cruelty went deeper than any wound she had ever felt. The next morning, Dara drove to the yellow building alone. She knocked. The woman opened the door. "Yes?" Dara raised her left hand slowly. The ring caught the light. "My name is Dara. I am Chidi's wife." The color drained from the woman's face. She stepped back, shook her head. No. He told me you were his late cousin. He said you passed away years ago." Dara blinked. "What?" Amaka, that was her name, brought out photo albums, letters, family pictures where Chidi smiled like a man with nothing to hide. Both women stood in that small living room and looked at the evidence spread across the table. Then they looked at each other. Same pain, same lies, same man. Amaka cried first. "I left my job for him. I gave him everything." Dara's eyes filled too. "I lost years waiting for honesty that was never coming." From the bedroom, Little Kene laughed at his video game, completely unaware. Neither woman looked at that child with hatred. He was innocent. He was just a little boy. It was the man they both needed to face. Then Dara asked quietly, "Did he legally marry you?" Amaka shook her head. "He always delayed the papers, always had a reason." Something shifted in Dara's eyes, because Chidi, in all his cleverness, had made one fatal mistake. There was only one legal wife, and both women knew exactly what that meant. They planned it carefully. No warnings, no private arguments, no chance for him to talk his way out in the dark. They sent Chidi an invitation to a rooftop birthday dinner for someone important. He showed up in his sharpest suit, carrying a bottle of wine, smiling like a man without a care in the world. Then he saw Dara. Then he saw Amaka. Then he saw Kene. The wine glass slipped from his hand and exploded on the floor. The restaurant went quiet. "Dara, listen to me. Just listen." "No." Her voice didn't shake. "Tonight, you listen." Tayo stepped in behind him, blocking the exit. Ayodeji sat sweating at a nearby table. Phones slowly appeared across the room. People could feel something historic happening. Amaka stood first. "You promised me marriage." Then Dara stood and placed a folder on the table. Bank transfers, rent payments, school fees, every amount, every date, matching every fake business trip. "You promised me loyalty." With every page, Chidi shrank. He dropped to his knees. "I love both of you. Please, just let me explain." The entire restaurant gasped. Dara laughed once, cold and sharp as glass. "That is not love, Chidi. That is greed." Amaka calmly removed the ring from her finger and dropped it into his drink. Weeks later, Dara filed for divorce. The apartment stayed with her. Amaka moved out, started a fashion store, and Tayo promoted it across every platform she could find. Little Kene finally had a life without secrets, without weekend lies, without a father who disappeared and reappeared like a ghost. The rooftop video spread everywhere. Chidi lost his job, lost his reputation, lost the 2 lies he had carefully constructed. One evening, he came to Dara's gate in old clothes, quieter than she had ever seen him. "I made a mistake, Dara. Please." She looked at him for a long moment. This man she had loved, planned a future with, cried herself to sleep over. "A mistake," she said slowly, "is forgetting your keys." She stepped closer. "What you built was betrayal." Then she shut the gate, softly. No slam, no anger, just a quiet click. That hurt him far more than any scream ever could. 1 year later, that same rooftop glowed with lights again. But this time, there were no lies hiding in the corners, no phones being checked nervously, no suitcases packed for fake trips. There was only music and laughter and peace. Dara and Amaka stood side by side, celebrating the first anniversary of the Women's Support Center they had built together. A place for women who had been lied to, broken down, and told they weren't enough. Tayo was on the dance floor, moving terribly, making everyone laugh. And little Kene ran between the tables with balloons in both hands, like only a happy, unburdened child can. Then he stopped. He walked up to Dara, reached out his small hand, and offered her a flower, slightly crumpled from being held too tight. "For you, Auntie Dara," he said shyly. She knelt down and pulled him into a hug, and her tears fell quietly into his little shoulder. Amaka watched them and pressed her hand over her heart. The thing that had nearly destroyed them both had somehow become the foundation of something real, something good. As the city lights shimmered across the Lagos skyline, Dara stood up, looked out at everything she had built from the rubble of everything she had lost, and she whispered to no one in particular, "Sometimes losing the wrong person is exactly how you find the right life." And for the first time in years, not a polite smile, not a performance, not a mask. She smiled from her heart. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you're new here, welcome. Subscribe, because every week we bring you stories about real strength, real pain, and real comebacks. See you in the next one.